video, but you won't be able to hear me. While we're waiting for everybody else, hopefully some more stragglers to file in. Who here uses WordPress today for their website? Anybody use it for a business or a startup? Okay. Who uses it as a developer and as a user content person, marketer? Okay. So we've got a smattering of WordPress and non-WordPress people in the room. All right. Just curious, like, what are some things you guys are hoping to find out today from the session? Anybody have anything they're looking for, or are you just here to kind of soak it in and have a good discussion?
Resting up for beer.
I'm
kidding.
All right.
I'm interested in seeing it more as a development platform as opposed to website.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, I think we'll get started then. So this is using WordPress to create the MVP for your startup, business, etc. If you're not here for the WordPress session, you're in the wrong room. I think this might be one of the only WordPress sessions at Minibar this year. So, anyways, I'm Nick Siski. I work for Simber.com. I used to work for ThoughtRefinery.com, but I joined with a friend, and we're building cool new things together. So that's a big change in status since the last Minibar. So if you're not familiar with what an MVP is, it's a minimum viable product. It's a test in the marketplace. Is this going to work? So it's the first version of Groupon, the first version of Airbnb. It's that kind of, if we put this out there in the world, will people buy it? Will people use it? And it's pretty much guaranteed that you're not going to use it long term. You're going to rewrite it. You're going to trash it, but you're going to learn a lot from it. So Eric Ries kind of created this concept or adopted it from lean manufacturing. In the lean startup, the first step is figuring out the problem that needs to be solved and then developing a minimum viable product to begin the process of learning as quickly as possible. So it's really all about learning. It's not about getting to market. It's about what learning so that your real product, the real launch, can be a strategic, a smarter launch. So it's really all about iterating fast, making mistakes, fail fast, fail early, fail often, and then when you actually go and launch into the market, you're going to be a lot smarter than when you started, because you never know what you don't know. So there's another slide that kind of hammers it home. There's minimum products, there's viable products, and there's minimum viable products. And there's a whole lot of minimum products out there, right? Like, seriously, this isn't the world, and it's just kind of worthless. Or, like, is anyone ever going to buy this? And then there's, the big boys. And somewhere in between is that seedling that might become a great oak someday. So if you're going to use WordPress for your MVP, like Groupon did, like lots of other companies are doing today, you're in pretty good company. There's a massive community, 74.6 million websites. A lot of those are blogs and content sites, but more and more apps. 2015, 2016, I think, is going to be the year that WordPress kind of evolves as an app platform. Matt Mullenweg has talked about it the last two State of the Words. We're seeing a lot of cool things come out of the WordPress ecosystem in the app world, like Happy Tables, which is a restaurant platform on WordPress. About 24 or 25% of the web, depending on who you ask, runs on WordPress. You get 29,000 plugins. A large number of those are absolute crap, but there's some really good ones in there. They can save you a lot of time. And it's open source, so you can use it for free. So some people have objections. They say, WordPress, isn't that just a blogging tool? Well, yeah, back in 2010 it was. And then version 3.0 came out and became a real CMS. And it's slowly eaten the web a bite at a time ever since. They say, oh, can it scale? Well, unless you're bigger than time, the answer is yes. So there's a couple tools that will help you if you want to go this route. You're going to go out and you're going to go, all right, there's this theme that does what I want. There's this theme that does geolocation business results. And there's this theme that does whatever. You can use those. That's a viable strategy. But realize you will throw away everything because they're crap under the hood. They're just a nightmare. There's no separation of concerns. Everything's intermixed. You cannot migrate to anything from those platforms. So if that's your goal, learn fast, learn early, throw it away, and start anew, go ahead and use them. But if WordPress is your platform for the future, don't do it. Find a nice theme, find a nice plugin that does what you want, because then you can always swap the two components out and you're not losing everything because it's all crammed together in a mess of spaghetti code. I say this having been hired to fix somebody's app theme-based startup website, and I just couldn't work on it anymore because I'm like, you are headed for disaster. It was such a mess. Good tools. Gravity Forms will be your best friend. It's really becoming a platform. It's forms, it's quizzes, it's surveys. It's got a built-in API. It does payments, so you can really, really quickly set up getting information in, getting information back out to edit for the user, taking payments, doing, if you're going to set up an X of the month club, you can really quickly, with Gravity Forms, start taking those orders, authorizing them through Stripe, and then getting them into a third-party system to get fulfilled. So it's like, that's the stupid simple, get a form up and do the manual processing on the back end. That's an MVP. It's like, will people order this if it exists online? So Gravity Forms is a great tool. If you're going to set up a membership site of any kind, I love Restrict Content Pro. It does automated billing, manages your whole membership flow, works great with Stripe, and you can set up really quickly a membership site, whether it's training or content-based, or you just need to bill somebody every month. Restrict Content Pro can do that for you. Opt-in Monster helps you build your email list. It does the exit intent. So just before they leave your website, it says, hey, get on our mailing list. And then this is the part that's really going to bring WordPress kind of in the next step of its evolution, is the WP API. So also known as the Json Rest Api. It's going to be in core this year sometime, I hope. They keep bumping it because it's not quite ready, but that's a good thing, because they're not going to ship it until it's ready. So this takes WordPress from a database or a kind of traditional server-side rendered CMS to basically a data repository that you can query however you want. You can tweak it on the back end to understand your content types and do custom responses, and then you can build your entire app in the JavaScript layer if you want. So you can have your desktop and your mobile and whatever else all query that API and build your website on the fly. So this is where WordPress kind of grows up and puts on its big boy pants, and I think it's really going to be a huge deal. And you can use this today with the plugin, and then you'll be ready to go when it comes in core later this year, hopefully. So here's a couple case studies. Mark Rubanski, he's a local guy, started doing front-end masters training. So this is Angular, and he had Crockford come in and talk about JavaScript, the good parts. And so he had some guy build this super custom content management system for him. And the thing just kind of kept breaking down. And then he had to call the guy, and the guy had to fix it. And he got sick of that. And so he switched to WordPress. And now his site runs on WordPress and RCP and Gravity Forms and a whole bunch. And it's a giant hodgepodge of glued together plugins, but it works. And when it breaks down, it's easier to fix, and a lot of the stuff he can do on his own. And so he's grown this thing massively since the switch to WordPress. This is one that I have a little bit of a hand in. Dana started Startups Anonymous and pulled me in, said, help, I've got this WordPress site and it's going gangbusters, and I need a new WordPress guy. And so this is, primarily monetized through ads, though there's not an ad right now. So this is, kind of the startups version of Secret, where people can talk about the realities of startup life. And, it's a WordPress blog with user-generated content.
Those are two of the most clickbaity headline titles.
I know. That's just what happened to be on the homepage today. So we were able to really, really quickly get to a point where people are submitting stuff, Dana's editing it, and it's up and running. And we're syndicated on Pando Daily, and it's just we were really, really quickly able to get this up and rolling using the tools that I've already talked about today. And then the kind of main case study for today is By the Change. This is Zach Steven from Monkey Island. And so they came to me and said, we want to do this Craigslist mashed up with Pinterest, mashed up with a ultra local marketplace, and can we do it in WordPress? And I said yes. And so we started building, and we were able to really rapidly evolve this site by building it on top of WordPress, Genesis, and a Pinterest theme, and then a whole bunch of custom code to make it work. So you can post an item or service, and you can see it then on the right. You can also do that on mobile. That's a mobile website. It's not an app yet. Then you can view those items and services on the desktop and on mobile. You can reply and say, hey, I want to buy this thing, or what's the dimensions, or you can share it on Facebook or Twitter. Or no, not just Facebook, and email. And then, of course, they need a blog, and WordPress has built-in blogging. So without having to hire a custom app developer, without having to go raise funding, they're able to bootstrap this site, test the market, see what's happening, and then rapidly iterate. Like services were added later. We went through a whole bunch of rounds of, okay, we've got something up, we're seeing what's working, what's the next step, what are we going to try next? And we're able to really rapidly develop these new features on the platform because we were on such an agile platform of WordPress and using these tools like, hey, can I add a new form or field to the form? It's like, yeah, I drop it in Gravity Forms, hook it up to the database, and we're done. It's not, okay, call the Rails guy or call the Python guy or call the Django guy, get on a schedule, get this custom thing implemented. We were able to really quickly iterate on that. So Zach's here. He's going to talk a little bit more about his experience, and then we'll open up for questions and discussion.
Awesome.
Thanks, Nick. And yeah, it's great to be here. I'm a non-technical co-founder, which I think there's a lot of us around today, but it's really awesome to find platforms and people who can actually turn these ideas into things that we can get in front of customers. And so the story with By the Change actually goes back a few years, and the idea behind it was to kind of create a trusted community network where people could sell their stuff and services with people they would be connected to in their neighborhood and other local communities. And first time around, about 6 years ago, we raised some seed money from friends and family, had a custom PHP app built. This was kind of before Facebook and mobile and everything else was going on. And really kind of did, I think, the classic entrepreneurial thing of overbuilding something for too long before you kind of connect with people. We had some limited success there, but not enough to actually just kind of sustain the business. And so we just put it on the shelf for a little while and turned to consulting and some other things to actually earn a living and just kind of let By the Change be there as a static homepage, for a while. But it's something that has really resonated with me personally as a mission around building community through commerce and helping people discover the micro businesses in their community. And so about a year ago or slightly more, I just kind of was like, all right, I'm ready again to try to bring this to market. But I think that now with WordPress could be a great platform from what I could see based on the accessibility to me as a non-technical person, as an alternative to Ruby on Rails. And from what I could look at, it seemed like maybe with BuddyPress or maybe with some of the other plugins and the dangerous themes that you can kind of get yourself into that you think, wow, this probably could just work. I just got to customize a few things. So that's kind of how I got into the idea of WordPress and then ended up connecting with Nick, who I think did do a lot of custom coding. But when I think about it from a non-technical point of view of why to go with WordPress as a platform, is it just felt a lot more accessible and understandable. It takes a little bit of learning to quite figure out the UI, and certainly it gives you enough power that you can break things. Just this week, Nick shut off the editor on me, but, well, not on By the Change, on that other website.
Oh, that's right.
But anyway, the things that he's been able to customize with the plugins and expose options for customizing email templates. We've done integrations with Mandrill so you get notified of new postings in your community. He created custom join codes so that if Nick invites me to join By the Change, we started out in a private beta, but then when I join, I'm following him, he's following me, I get notified. Like, there's some really just cool stuff that could be built, and you could really invest that custom development time on the key features that are going to set you apart from the other things that are just out of the box. And so this time around, we basically just rebuilt it from scratch, and we're actually able to get it done much more quickly and then kind of iterate as we went. And so now I'm really excited about where things are headed from an API perspective, and we're continuing to work on the project, thinking about how can we leverage this platform to go into a native mobile experience, and we're really excited to be kind of rolling this out more broadly this spring. But from a product perspective, I would definitely second what Nick said on trying to find that MVP and just finding ways to get to market, and especially if you're not as technically inclined, you can do a lot to even show what this thing should look like with WordPress.
Well, that might be a new record as far as how quickly we wrap up. So now I want to know, what do you guys want to know? What questions do you have? I mean, you've got a seasoned WordPress developer. You've got a guy who's done it. What do you want to know about using WordPress for your MVP, using WordPress for your business?
I had a question specifically about this. Were you using, like, the theme you used, you said it was a Pinterest theme? Like, go into a little bit more specifics of how much and how you evaluated that theme as being a good fit, and with your criteria of it being not the theme to do everything, right? Like the app theme, right?
Yeah, so it was a Pinterest style theme, which meant it had the masonry layout. So the masonry layout is the kind of the blocks of text that stack,
Yeah.
kind of in odd things. And so, yes, so what it came down to was, had you already started with that theme?
Yeah, I was probably the dream client that always has something like halfway done that looks good, and there's a lot of, junk under the hood.
Yeah, so I had to rewrite about 50% of the theme to get it to work. But it pretty much got us there. I mean, I was tearing out quite a bit and making it fit our needs, because it had some opinions on how it should be done, and those didn't fit the needs. And so, but it was a good start. I mean, I could have taken any old theme and added masonry and built it, but it was enough of a starting point. We were on a tight timeline and budget, and so it was like, all right, let's use as much as we can and have that be a springboard for the future. And so that was just a Pinterest theme. It wasn't a marketplace theme or anything like that. There was no functionality. All it did was show posts as these little blocks. And so that was a wise decision in that, all right, I can tweak that to get it to where we want. It'll save us a bunch of time. And then all the user management, all the item posting, that's all Gravity Forms with custom code. So even if we swapped the theme out, all of that stuff would continue to work. And the items could be displayed in whatever way you want. Or you can pull them by the API and display them in a completely different way. So it's really all about kind of keeping your data separate from your view layer, what it looks like, so that you can display it in multiple ways, so you can change your mind and you're not tied to, well, crap, it's all in this theme, and if I turn this theme off, I lose all that functionality and all that data disappears, and now what do I do? And I have to teach the new theme how to read the old theme. And so it's like that's when you want to kind of selectively or strategically bring in a developer to kind of work on the business logic functionality side, and then leverage all of the tools to basically, I didn't have to write any forms. I just dragged and dropped the Gravity Forms. Zach built a bunch of forms and I just hooked them up. So it allows you to really kind of hone and use that developer for what you need them for, and not have them doing a bunch of stuff that it's a solved problem,
There would be definitely things where I would ask Nick for something. And he said, I did that, and now I made it an option. So next time you need something like that, you can look right here, which I really appreciated. And that kind of accessibility of learning the interface was really valuable. One other thing that we did, which you don't see right here, is the actual homepage for buythechange.com is a separate theme. So one of the things that I so it's a little bit different from this, where I wanted to just be able to customize the look and feel of it more so than have it be different from that Pinterest theme. I guess you can try buythechange.com. And so Nick helped him set up with a subdomain, so once you're logged in, you see some other things, and that gave me a chance to see. So that's separate, but then it links to this other theme on the back end, and so I just wanted to have an area where I could actually customize the content. All right, responsive.
Yeah, responsive.
Yeah.
So that's using WordPress for the marketing side, and then WordPress for the application side as well. So.
I guess I just haven't taken the time to use it, because it's tedious. But there's so many freaking themes out there. Like,
Yep.
how do you decide what is, going to work for you? And then kind of a website question in general. Just here, it's like you scroll down forever. I guess I'm old school. I find that annoying, but it's like all of them do that now. Does my website have to be like that? Or can I just be like, I like top navigation where it drops down? Like, am I just too old?
All right, I'll tackle one at a time. So yeah, you think there's 29,000 plugins. There's even more themes, and you get the swath from absolute junk. And the classic theme forest theme is everything, including the kitchen sink. And so you look at it and you go, oh man, I've got all these options. I can do anything I want. And then you get in and it's analysis paralysis, or it's really, really heavy. The homepage is 5 megabytes because it's loading 14 slider libraries and only using one of them, or something like that. Or it includes a slider plugin that has a massive security vulnerability, and your site gets hacked. So you have to be really kind of careful. And so that's where you can ask developer friends, or the community is super helpful. There's Facebook groups, there's the WP.org forums, where you can kind of say, this is the theme I'm looking at. Can you give me some opinions? Or Quora is another good place. Don't go on and go, hey, I've got an event website, what theme should I use? Because that doesn't tell me enough information to help you. But if you say, I'm going to run an event website, we have these kind of 5 things it has to do. These are the themes I'm looking at. Is one a better option than the other? And then you'll get some really helpful comments. The other thing that you can look at is, I'm a Genesis developer, so I use StudioPress for Genesis-based themes.
Yeah, you said going free.
Yeah, so those tend to be a cut above the rest as far as build quality. They don't have all the options under the sun, though. Though there is a plugin now called Genesis Design Palette Pro that lets you customize the snot out of most Genesis themes. And so you kind of you can add on the toggles to tweak the snot out of it in the browser. To kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the build quality, and then you get the customizability. And then there's other places like Array Themes, where like the developers behind it have a reputation, and so I know that they build good stuff. And then there's the other developers that are out there maximizing sales, and they're building what the market wants, which is not necessarily the best thing. So yeah, it is kind of a wild west, and it can be tough. And so ask questions. The community's very, very, very helpful, and if you ask good questions, you'll get good answers, and people love to help. And you can email me if you want. If you're like, is this theme any good? And I'll tell you the truth. There's a local user group mailing list. If you go to mspwp.com, you can join the Google group and ask questions there. And I'm told I'm usually the first one to respond, and I think I am. But you'll get a diversity of opinion there that can be really helpful. As for, so is this a Parallax, or is this just the mega scrolling homepage? It's not tech. Well, yeah, there's a little Parallax action there. So this is the hot new thing in theme development. It's the Parallax, where you've got the mega homepage, and then the one background there scrolls at a different rate than everything else. And it can work, or it can really backfire depending on your goals. So it can work really well if your homepage is a sales page, because it allows you to kind of build that rapport as they scroll down and do that call to action. And so it's kind of a prettier version of the classic sales page, where it scrolls forever and ever and ever. And if you keep scrolling, they know you're investing more and more into the sale. And it's a prettier version of that. But it is definitely a fad and a trend, and it's not the right solution. I find a lot of sites that use them poorly. They make it really hard to link to the contact page or to link to a certain section of the website. So I don't think you're old-fashioned. I think that they work in some cases, and in other cases, people are doing it because it's cool. Or because, oh, look, this theme, it looks really neat, and then they don't really think about the user experience of, is this really going to communicate best? Is this going to be linkable? Is it going to be shareable? Or is the classic, I want to have a contact page, that's a separate page, and an about page, it's a separate page, going to work best for me. And the other thing they work really well for is I don't really have a lot of content, so I just want to stick it all on one page and look cool so that people don't notice that there's nothing else here.
It's kind of like a vertically sliding PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, it is. It really is like a vertically sliding presentation. And the studies have shown that people don't mind scrolling, or at least the upcoming generation, they're used to scrolling. And so it doesn't impact, they're going to scroll and look for what they want, and when they find it, they're going to click. And you can actually do both. You don't have to have, you can have the mega homepage, but you don't have to have the menu items push them down the homepage. You can have that content in both places, and then kind of allow people to navigate the way they want. And that's one of the nice things about WordPress is you can do whatever the heck you want if you know a little bit of PHP. But yeah, you can teach WordPress new tricks and tweak that theme so that it kind of works both ways. So you can have your cake and eat it too, as long as it's digital cake. All right, we got. Let's go back here. Then we'll go over there.
Just quickly tying that in, you said you save a pile of time and money. Can we quantify that a little bit more by using?
By using what?
So you developed this in PHP first, and then you did it with the WordPress theme. Now, to your point about merging these things together and getting on this MVP quickly, how much time did you really save over reprogramming it fully?
Yeah, it was not quite, apples to apples. Not apples to apples in terms of the feature set or exactly kind of what the vision was at that point, but it's easily, only like 20% of the same amount of time to get to this. I mean, I think part of that was my own growing and learning of like, what is the MVP and how can I get that to happen, and tried to be pretty clear with Nick, and we had some back and forth about these are all the things and this other stuff we're not going to worry about. But yeah, it was really then doable.
And as far as costs, then, especially since you're bootstrapping it and your resources are limited, I mean, is it half the cost, a third?
Yeah, quarter of the cost maybe. I mean, yeah, I think we got smarter, found a good person, and leveraged a good platform. And then, like he said, then we certainly have kind of continued to layer on things over time, and I would say, hey, can we do this? But if I have this referral link and I share it to Facebook, I want this to happen. And so it's easy to just kind of have it keep growing. But it's great to have a dialogue where you can say, sure, we can do that, but
it's going to cost you, but probably less than if you were paying, for it to be completely custom developed. It's like the share buttons there. I think we started with a sharing plugin, and now they're custom because we wanted to really tweak how they worked. But as far as like getting it and having something to look at, I turned on a sharing plugin, and we were able to have a discussion about these work. They don't quite work how I want. Let's tweak it. But it's like the other way. It's like you just kind of have to go full custom all the time. So
it's essentially you're saying I'm sorry.
Oh, let's let him go first.
You mentioned a couple plugins. One was a form builder, another one for like a membership site.
Yep.
You've mentioned several different themes. Are these all open source, or have they been commercialized by their developers?
Some are, some aren't. Like Gravity Forms is commercial, but it's $35. That's the best $35 you're going to invest.
Per site?
Yeah, I think it's
I think it's
35 per.
Yeah, it's per site for
Otherwise,
that.
you can buy an unlimited for like 100 or something.
Yeah, it's like
They have
150.
different subscription options.
It's like 150 for the developer. They do not charge enough for that plugin. It's like whenever each year as a freelancer, now my boss pays for it. But each year as a freelancer, I was like, I will happily pay you $150 because that saves me hours upon hours of frustration. RCP is like $35 or something ridiculous. If you want a free forms, there's Ninja Forms. So there's usually free versions that aren't quite as nice. But it's all like a joke how much these things cost for what they give you. And it's a debate in the WordPress space of are we undervaluing the plugins that we sell? But yeah, I mean, basically for a couple $100, you can get current versions of all these nice premium plugins with support that work really well, and you're off to the races. So, I mean, like the $150 a year for Gravity Forms gets you Gravity Forms, Authorize.net payment module, Stripe payment module, user registration module, a signature module. I mean, it's just like everything you need to kind of do that, to glue that stuff together is right there. And, you know, that's an hour of my time. So you just got hundreds or thousands of hours of development time for the equivalent of 1 hour of a skilled consultant. So, did that answer the question?
Yeah, I was just taking off on his, or
Oh.
move on to somebody else.
Okay.
Well, that's cool.
All right. Everybody's going up at the same time. I think he was over there before.
Just a quick question. Do you have a go-to hosting provider?
It depends. A lot of clients bring their own host. If I'm choosing the host, it kind of depends on their hosting budget. WP Engine's a solid choice, but it doesn't always make sense for applications because their caching layer is one version for everything. So, and the minute you have someone sign in, caching is off. So WP Engine isn't always the right choice. Like Front-End Masters runs on Web Synthesis because the caching can be a little more intelligent. It's because it's running W3 total cache. So you can say cache these requests, don't cache those requests. Cache these uniquely and really kind of fine tune it. Pantheon is a new entry into the space, and they're really kind of kicking butt with their development tools. They've got staging, development, production environments. You can push and pull stuff between them. If you cowboy code and make an edit, it makes a git commit for what you did, and it's like, that's awesome. So you pay kind of dearly once you go to production, but development sites are free, so you can develop there for free and use all their tools for nothing. And then you can figure out where you're going to deploy from there. I avoid the big mega hosts. I don't want to name any names, but they're all owned by one company, and